What's up, guys? Welcome back to Michigan Muckraker. My name's Michelle. Today is the 29th of January of 2024. And unfortunately, there's a lot going down at the border here in America, but not just in America. All of the Western nations are experiencing a flood of what is being called migrants. And I'm going to show you today the disease, and I'm not talking about the people, I'm talking about the plan that is being pushed by self-anointed elitist pricks that is causing the border crisis. Before I get into that, I'm going to show some symptoms of the disease itself, and then I'm going to get into the plan, which is called Leveraging Human Mobility to Rescue the 2030 Agenda IOM Flagship Report for the Sustainable Development Goal Summit. And this just came out in November of 2023. So it is the most recent publication from the United Nations about using migrants in order to push UN Agenda 2030. So again, we're going to get in first to the symptoms and then the disease itself. Quick elephant in the room that I have to talk about. Obviously, the Lions lost last night, and so my prediction was only half right. The Chiefs won because of Taylor Swift and business, and I thought the Lions would win as well because of the storyline and the storytelling. I'm going to make a bold prediction for next year. The Lions will actually win next year, but I will admit I was hoping for the Lions to win. I was a longtime fan until I realized it's scripted. With as much money as the NFL makes, it's definitely scripted. But I got the script wrong. I'm the type of person that likes to watch a movie and try to predict what happens at the end. Some people love that. Some people don't. I get it. I can't help myself. So I was wrong about the script, but I'm not about what the script entailed. But it being a script, I still 100% believe that. So anyway, that aside, let's jump into the symptoms. By the way, thank you guys very much for hanging out with me today and wanting to learn what's going on with the border. This map that I'm showing right here shows in the red all the states that are backing Texas to defend the border, and then all the states that don't have red are states that are not backing Texas. Now, this, people are saying, is the Civil War map. I do not want a civil war. They want us to have a civil war and kill each other, so we need to not do that. But I want to point out one thing in particular, Georgia, right here. I have an article. Kemp pitches Georgia at World Economic Forum, and this was just this year, guys. So he is a sellout. He's Republican. He's red. He's in a red state. He's saying that he's backing Texas, but he went and tried to sell Georgia to the World Economic Forum, just like Whitmer did last year, and the Illinois Pritzker, I think is his name, the governor of Illinois did the same. So you unfortunately can't trust these people. Another indication is the Texas governor, Greg Abbott, is also a part of the World Economic Forum. So there is a bigger thing going on here. They want us to believe in this narrative, and we must not fall into it. Now, that's not to say there's not a problem. Of course there's a problem, but it's by design. So more of the symptom here, truckers to descend on America next week. Allegedly, there are 700,000 trucks right now on the way to the border to help Texas defend the border. And of course, I worry about false flags. I worry about entrapment. I worry for the freedom fighters that I totally understand where they're coming from. And I don't think that we should stop mobilizing and protesting and civil disobedience because of that entrapment on January 6th. They want that. They want us too afraid to actually do something. But we also have to be very, very cognizant that they do want to entrap us, that this is a war, unfortunately, of the governments versus the people, and not just in America. So Muckraker.com, not my website, another muckraker, a fellow muckraker, a single male that is able to go down with his brother and actually go on the path that the United Nations has created. They have maps, they give out maps. Doctors Without Borders, the Red Cross. He has all the information. He is doing very good work. So I highly recommend you go to muckraker.com. But he also came out with a 40-minute documentary that you should check out as well. That's free. He does have some premium stuff behind a paywall. I'm thinking about getting behind that paywall, but I haven't yet. So I'm just going to show you what is free, which is a lot of information. Shelly says it's all rigged. You're absolutely right. It is all rigged. And if you're talking about the NFL and this, it's all rigged, all of it. Unfortunately, these people that were in the Bilderberg Group, in the Club of Rome, it's now the World Economic Forum, but these groups have been around for a long time. In the United Nations since World War II, obviously. But before that, it was the League of Nations. Woodrow Wilson tried to create the League of Nations. So they've been trying to create a new world order for a long time. And unfortunately, they're very close. Military-aged Chinese males headed to the United States illegally. As you can see, there's a video right here.
You go China.
Watch. It's going to show, whoops. There we go. Put my headset on, and we're going to watch. It's only 1:12, but these are the people that are coming through the border. And again, this is all Muckraker doing actual ground muckraking on the ground.
China? China? Hello? You go China? Hello, China? Yeah? Hello? Hello, China?
Yes.
China. America?
Yeah.
Okay. China. America? California? New York?
Oh no, no English.
No
No
English.
English. Peace. China? Yeah.
And there are some women and children, but as you can see, it's a hard trip, I'm sure. Majority of them are male. And here are the maps. Let's see. Come up here, the Darien Gap migration pipeline revealed. This pipeline, this migration path was absolutely created by United Nations and all the NGOs, okay? There's obviously so many committees. That's how they confuse us, right? Is they have so many committees and such that we didn't vote for those people, like the MEDC. Whitmer put all those people in. Economic development is constantly discussed in this plan, this document that I have to share with you. But real quick, we'll show.
Since 2021, more than 6 million
8 minutes, so I'm not going to watch the whole thing because I have a lot to show, but we're going to watch just a few minutes of this.
illegal immigrants have been apprehended at the southern border. That is more than the populations of 30 American states and more than the combined populations of Wyoming, Alaska, North Dakota, South Dakota, Idaho, and Montana combined. This investigation by Muckraker.com proves that the collapse of the United States southern border is the result of deliberate planning by government and non-government entities. This story takes place inside the Darien Gap, the artery connecting North and South America, where the mass migration pipeline to the United States begins. To put it simply, migrants who cannot fly into any North American country first fly into South America, most frequently Quito, Ecuador, due to its easy entry requirement.
Real quick, while this map is pulled up, because I didn't watch this before, I was going to watch it with you, but I have this other map to pull up, and I'm going to look. Now, this map is Mayor Migration Council, so this is another group that some of our mayors in America are involved in. And let's see. If we come down here, blue, Ecuador, Action City. Now, an Action City is a city that actively participates in core programs such as the Call to Local Action or Global Cities Fund for migrants and refugees. Then you have leadership cities, cities whose mayors serve on the leadership board, act as primary ambassadors, and guide our programmatic strategy. And then coalition cities in the black dots. Cities that engage in diplomacy or practice activities such as diplomatic dialogues, joint statements, technical sessions, or research. So as you can see right here down in Ecuador, there are several different locations. These are action cities. This is where they must be coming in. Ecuador is filled with them, but then you also have Colombia. Bogota is one of them, and Costa Rica. So you can see all the way up, these are different cities that are helping with migration. Now you come up here to San Antonio, Texas, the leadership city is what it is. Okay, former, it says. But the mayor was Ron Nierenberg. So this individual made promises to the United Nations, who, again, we didn't vote for those people. Why are any of these people involved with this migration plan? Come over here. We have, of course, this is Costa Rica. What? That doesn't make sense. El Salvador. Salt Lake City. Now you come over to Michigan. Obviously, I'm from Michigan. I was interested. Clarkston, when it says former, so I don't know if it's still doing that, but we know Chicago is letting in droves of migrants. They're having a lot of issues right now. So Chicago being one of these cities that the mayor made promises to, or Montreal. So obviously there is a good plan, at least good for the globalists. Going back to the video.
From Ecuador, the migrants cross into Colombia and then trek across the Darien Gap, a lawless section of jungle where migrants are frequently raped, robbed, or killed. Those who make it across the jungle find themselves in Panama. This is where our story begins.
Okay. Again, I will have all of these videos linked for you guys in a Substack article so that you can watch these videos. I highly recommend. Unfortunately, like usual, I just have so much information to share that I won't be able to watch that whole thing. But here's more from Muckraker. This one's only a minute. Oh, that's the one we've already seen. Jumping around a little bit. We'll go to this one so you can see the maps.
Since 2021, more than 6 million illegal immigrants have been apprehended at the southern border. That is more than the populations of 30 American states and more than the combined populations of Wyoming, Alaska, North Dakota, South Dakota, Idaho, and Montana.
Let me go to the map section.
This investigation by Muckraker.com, Doctors Without Borders, UNHCR, and the Norwegian Refugee Council. All of these organizations play a role in a carefully planned mass migration pipeline. Although Panama, the rest of Central America, and Mexico offer safe havens where migrants can seek refuge, nearly all migrants will head to the United States. This is facilitated by the various groups mentioned earlier, who offer migrants aid and instructions on how to get to the United States. Migrants receive various maps detailing exactly how to trek to the U.S. border. This map, displayed in a highest care facility, shows the migrant path across Panama and Costa Rica.
Yeah, I have never been anywhere down this area. I've traveled, but mostly in Europe. I wanted to travel down south, but maybe someday. But obviously, I really don't want to travel this path. But these people are just being used, and the people that make these plans, they don't look at us like we're human beings. We're just pawns on a chessboard. So it doesn't matter how many people die or get trafficked or anything else, that as long as a certain amount of people get through to where they want them to go, their plan will work. At least this is how they think. Again, they have no respect for life. That is why they are who they are. That is why they have the plans that they have. They think that they know better. They're self-anointed and they are eugenicists. They want to have the children, and you and I are just dumb plebs that shouldn't have children. And so it's all connected, unfortunately.
In this footage, a highest worker can be seen explaining exactly how to cross Panama.
¿Cuánto es el costo de ese bus? Ese bus le va a cobrar $40. ¿Cuánto tiempo va a demorar ese bus? Ese bus demora 14 horas aproximadamente. 100 en la noche ustedes van a hacer transbordo en Ciudad de Panamá.
A more comprehensive map is distributed by the Red Cross. This map not only shows multiple migration routes to the United States, but also includes rest stops across Central America and Mexico.
El tren se va hasta acá, por acá. Aquí están las vías del tren. Todas.
All right, so you get the idea. We're going to jump over to this video called Migration and and the 2030 Agenda, which of course is United Nations. And then I'm going to dive into the actual document itself.
Migration is a global phenomenon that touches us all. Many of us know someone who has moved to another country or have migrated ourselves. By embracing the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development and its 17 Sustainable Development Goals, we have an unmissable opportunity to harness the development potential of migration, to support beneficial outcomes, starting with reducing inequalities and putting the right policies in place to ensure safer, more orderly and regular migration. Migration has been a long-standing coping strategy for people to pull themselves out of poverty, to cope with lack of basic infrastructure, or search for better opportunities. People's reasons to move can also be influenced by conflict, natural hazards, or environmental conditions linked to climate change. And in a global context of rapid urbanization, movement of people is increasingly taking place to cities and urban areas, enriching local communities and societies, both where migrants are and where they come from. The knowledge, skills and experience that migrants bring and gain in new places contribute to the labour force in key sectors such as health, and play a vital role in building diverse and productive societies. Migration can empower women economically and socially and help people realise their personal aspirations and educational potential.
Really quick, two things. I'm sorry that I have to do this, but they're talking about healthcare and how migration can help healthcare. Well, I have to show you. This just came out. Denver Health at critical point as 8,000 migrants take 20,000 emergency visits. And here's another one. A city of 710,000 struggles to cope with 40,000 migrant arrivals. So their systems can't support the weight of the migration pattern. And there's a lot of issues, obviously, with women and assault. Over in Europe, I see tons of videos on Twitter all the time. So when they say that it's good for women, we just heard that at the border, assault happens, kidnappings happen. So it's not really good. None of that is good for women or children. So it's very selective. They only, of course, talk to you and show you what they want to show you. Zoltan the man, good morning. Good to see you here. I'm about to jump into the plan, the migration plan, right after this video, which is only, another minute. We're doing that. Business. It's everyone's business. It literally is a business moving these people. It's awful that again, life is so, I can't even think of the right word. They don't care. They don't care about human life or life in general. The war on carbon is a war on life. No audio. Oh boy. Sorry, guys. I noobed it up.
And play a vital role in building diverse and productive societies.
Let me redo that.
Migration can empower women economically and socially and help people realise their personal aspirations and educational potential. This encourages innovation, which benefits science, technology and industry. With increased earnings, migrants are able to send financial support to family members back home. This is critical to help reduce hunger and strengthen the resilience and sustainability of poorer communities. But none of these benefits are guaranteed. We can only achieve all of this by upholding human rights, fostering peace and security, ensuring equal access to justice and protection from exploitation for all. We also need to build strong partnerships in our cities, within our countries and regions, and globally through international cooperation. Migration is everyone's business.
There we go.
Together, we can ensure that we leave no one behind.
Sorry about that, guys. I forgot to share the right screen. So leave no one behind. It's like No Child Left Behind to me. That obvious, every child is left behind now. No child is going to be able to read and write. That's what leave no one behind means, in my opinion. Again, a business. Good morning. Chat blocked, Kathy. I'm seeing your chat. And Zoltan the man, totally understandable. I hope that your move went smoothly, and I'm happy that you're here as well. All right. Now, leveraging human mobility to rescue the 2030 Agenda IOM Flagship Report for the SDG Summit. And I have highlighted like 200 highlights in here. It's very long, so I'm just going to try to stick to my highlights. Again, though, if you want to read it for yourself, I always encourage it. I just want to share information with y'all. That is my number one goal of this channel, is I do research, and I just want you guys to be informed and that have informed consent. You're intelligent human beings. You can make up your own mind. So let's jump in. Acknowledgements. Data modeling for this report was undertaken by researchers of the University of Oxford's Center on Migration Policy and Society, COMPAS. They love to use these little acronyms, COMPAS. There's one in here called PET, which they're talking about you and I being their little pets. Let's go down. Executive summary. I will read this first paragraph. At the midway point of the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development, the world faces a crossroads. The promise to leave no one behind and achieve this SDGs is in stark peril. As development progress is reversing under the combined impacts of the climate emergency, conflicts, economic downturns, and uneven pandemic recovery. Progress on only 12% of the Sustainable Development Goals target is on track. Progress on 50% is weak and insufficient, and progress has stalled or reversed on more than 30%, with developing countries and the world's most vulnerable bearing the brunt of this. Now, something that you're going to see in here is a lot of this is, migration is really good for both the country that's receiving, and then, of course, those people are fleeing from conflict or starvation. Why aren't we trying to help every country have cheap energy and basically forge their way towards the American dream like we had? It goes to the fact that these people think resources are finite, the limit to growth, right? We can't all have cheap energy. We can't all be self-sustaining. Unfortunately, there's not enough resources in their mind, but it's not been proven. This place was intelligently designed, and human beings are smart enough that every time more and more people come into this world, we create innovations that can feed more and more people. So I am 100% for ultimate resource, not limit to growth. Moreover, our ways of working to meet the SDGs are inadequate. The SDG funding gap in developing countries is estimated at $3.9 trillion US, and despite major steps taken to support SDG implementation, including the Decade of Action and United Nations Development Systems, UNDS, reform, there is an urgent need to do more and to take radical action. Today's sobering picture of reversing SDG progress is a clarion call to redouble efforts to leave no one behind and overcome the triple planetary crisis completely made up to justify their agenda. You can justify anything if you think that we're all going to die because of climate change, human-induced climate change. But again, that's just so they can justify their evil. And to utilize every available solution to achieve this. Every available solution. This generation has the mandate to address unprecedented global challenges with all possible levers. Kathy says, follow Oscar L. Blue online as he travels with migrant caravans in interviews these precious souls. NGOs, Biden, Muckraker, and other leaders are responsible for lies, broken promises, trafficking. You're absolutely right. We have the ability to legitimately help all immigrants with good intentions. Yeah, I definitely am pro-human being. So to me, the problem is these people that are, again, moving us like we're chess pieces. I don't appreciate that. Let us live and let live. Leave us the hell alone. That's all I want these self-anointed pricks to do. But they think they know better than us. This generation has a mandate to address unprecedented global challenge. Okay, yeah. Human mobility is one such lever. And in fact, none of today's challenges, from climate change to conflict, can be tackled effectively without considering human mobility. While migrants are often among the furthest left behind, they simultaneously push forward development, well-being, and growth for people and planet. Human mobility is already a force for progress that the international community must leverage to help reach the SDGs. Well-managed human mobility is key to achieving the 2030 Agenda. Mobility must be integrated across development, humanitarian, and many other efforts, which bring alive various mobility development links. Whichever way it is looked at, human mobility is part of the solution to rescue the Sustainable Development Goals. This report showcases how, with the right action, human mobility can help achieve SDGs and support development beyond 2030. It represents related evidence under 6 acceleration actions. So they're accelerating the migration, presenting potential benefits of policy action through analysis from the IOM Regional Office for Central North America and the Caribbean, the Center on Migration, Policy and Society, COMPAS, and World Data Lab. It also provides examples of successful initiatives and recommends how to move forward. The driving force behind these actions is connection. They are relevant to policy areas which often operate separately, bringing new connections for the consideration of policymakers. This is reflected in the mix of SDGs each action supports. Many are not often seen in the same sentence. The actions also aim to connect countries and communities. They are universally relevant, given a role to play to countries in all regions, in receiving and sending countries of migration across income levels. They are in line with the 6 transitions identified by the UN SDG: climate, biodiversity and pollution, energy, food systems, education, jobs and social protection, and digital connectivity. So I talked about Biden's plan. It's not really Biden's plan. He's just implementing UN Agenda 21. But to get everybody connected through the Department of Rural Agriculture, there's a whole department for rural areas, and they are trying to get broadband everywhere. And it's because of this. It's not because they care that we have internet and have jobs. It's because they want digital IDs and everybody connected to them. Finally, they knit together several cross-cutting elements of mobility and development policy, which must be connected to all interventions. And of course, food systems, we're seeing that. Our food systems are being utterly destroyed and replaced with, cricket powder, Bill Gates buying all the land and putting huge buildings, factories, labs, lab-grown meat. This year, lab-grown meat will be out. It's already out, Beyond Meat, but you'll see more and more of it actually in your fast food restaurants. It's awful. Acceleration actions for development. 1, extend social protection and universal health coverage to all migrants to reduce inequalities and vulnerabilities and enable their active participation in and contribution to societies. Obviously, the World Health Organization is making that plan for universal health in this new world order. Social protection and universal health coverage are fundamental to resilient and inclusive societies and a key to meeting the SDGs. However, migrants tend to enjoy less social protection and health coverage than natives. Expanding access would reduce inequalities and maximize migrants' contributions to societies. Now, I want to say that real healthcare, of course, human beings should have access to real healthcare, but you can't force someone to give healthcare, right? If I'm a doctor to actually help someone, like, you can't force that. But the problem is with the World Health Organization, what is healthcare? Is it sick care? I mean, like, if they force you to get vaccinations and that's healthcare, then I don't want it. You know, it's what is universal health coverage and what does that mean exactly? It doesn't necessarily mean something good. In Colombia, migrants are 39% points less likely to be affiliated with a health program than Colombians. Migrants affiliated with a health program are less likely to face these issues, suggesting that extending access helps boost migrant well-being and participation in society. Reduce remittance costs and leverage different types of diaspora contributions to boost sustainable development finance, trade systems, and global value chains. Now, I didn't know what that word meant. I'm going to be honest, always. So I looked it up, and it says the dispersion or spread of a people from their original homeland.
Diaspora.
Diaspora. Yeah, that was a new word for me. Through remittances, knowledge transfer, and many other mechanisms, human mobility stimulates development financing, trade, and global value chains. The world needs ambitious plans to finance sustainable development and new strategies to support trade systems and transnational supply chains. Managed effectively, mobility can be a building block for these plans. Number 3, weave human mobility into development and urban planning to increase social cohesion and boost development for all. Today, 41% of citizens around the world feel that their sense of social cohesion is weak because of COVID and the media and alienation, all that. So it's the policies that happened in these last 3 years. It's government intervention that has destroyed interactions between us. It wasn't the pandemic itself, because obviously that was way, way overblown. We'll just leave it at that. While taking a whole of society approach to policy and including everyone's voices in policy is critical, migrants' inclusion to date is patchy. Integrating migrants and human mobility across development planning has the potential to strengthen policies and boost cohesion, creating more effective plans. Awaken One says the truth about all vaxes must come out. You're absolutely right. That the whole pharmaceutical industry is a scam. It has nothing to do with helping people. It has everything to do with money. It's a business. And if they can make you sick enough to need their services, but not dead, that's perfect. Or at least it was. There is a depopulation agenda, unfortunately, unveiling right now, coming out right now. This is especially relevant in cities. 5 billion people will live in urban areas by 2050. I have been doing a lot of reading in this book, Mega Regions and America's Future. This is about the mega regions of 2050. The Department of Transportation has picked up that plan, so it is absolutely en route here in America and all across Europe as well. Displacement is increasingly urban, and city infrastructure will need to adapt accordingly. And 65% of SDG targets are linked to local government activity. Local government activity. Another quick rant, but Goshen, when I first started covering Goshen here in Green Charter Township, I saw that even though they didn't know that they were using the language and implementing United Nations Agenda 21, I saw it in my own backyard in a tiny little township that has like 3,000 people. So they are absolutely in every local government, unfortunately. Acting on mobility development links requires close collaboration between national and local levels. Empowering local leaders and working directly with communities, cities, and rural governments creates development solutions that work on the ground in real time, except for the people that actually live in those rural areas. Nobody wants Goshen here. Doesn't matter. Still being forced on us so far. We're still fighting it, but this is one of those prime examples. And it just came out that the Goshen facility in Illinois, they are requiring people to speak Mandarin Chinese. Why would that be? In the Republic of Moldova, a project connecting communities with diaspora via hometown associations extended basic services and job creation for all in local communities. And it goes on about Iraq. Develop safe and regular migration pathways. Invest in skills development and facilitate mutual recognition of qualifications to meet the needs of changing labor markets and divergent demographic trends. By 2030, the 15 to 64-year-old population in OECD economies will decrease by 0.6%. Without migrants, this rate would be negative 4%. Increasing current annual migration flow to compensate for this deficit would add $90 billion to the GDP. So you see here, money is absolutely involved. They have calculated that migrants equals more money. By 2030, migrants will contribute an estimated $500 billion to OECD economies around the same time as the GDP of Austria. Reduce the digital access gap for people on the move to improve integration and unlock innovation and green entrepreneurship. Migrants who use the internet daily are 38% points more likely to have a bank account. They want us on a bank account, central banking, central bank digital currencies, part of the digital ID. All of this is possible, by the way, because of Elon Musk's Starlink. Suggesting that improving migrants' digital access and financial inclusion could help unlock their contributions. In the United Kingdom, migrants are 8 percentage points more likely than the UK born to want to open a business. Think about that. Is that something to do with our education, perhaps? Here in these countries that you would consider first, they were, why can't I think of it? First world. Thank you. First world countries. No one believes it's not on mainstream media news. And Kathy says they sell bug burgers and human flesh added just to destroy our body's health. Yes. And I think one of these Rumble exclusives, I'm going to get into the human flesh and just the disturbing things that have been found in food. Integrate human mobility into national adaptation and climate change response plans and invest in preparedness and loss and damage provisions to forge impactful climate and peace action. The links between climate change, conflict, and human mobility, while complex, are key to sustainable action. Moreover, mobility is not integrated consistently across relevant policy frameworks and processes. Integrating mobility considerations is integral to peace and climate change policy, and can save lives and aid development. Out of the selected pair of countries that were affected by the same climate change-related disasters, those who had included human mobility in their nationally determined contributions tended to have lower related disaster costs. There is a disclaimer somewhere in this article, or rather this document, that claims that although they are comparing, you can't directly compare because obviously there's so many factors between two countries. So they still try, though. Looking ahead, this generation is equipped with unprecedented knowledge, technologies, and resources, and breaking through to a better future demands use of this major advantage. Today, there's a growing evidence about how, if managed effectively, mobility benefit individuals, families, communities, and societies around the world. As the world redoubles its efforts to leave no one behind and overcome the triple planetary crisis, every available solution must be leveraged. Mainstreaming human mobility considerations into development plans must gather speed to respond to these and take advantage of the opportunities migrants bring. This document offers a glimpse of the possible along 6 acceleration actions. What else can be done so that mobility supports our shared aims for people and planet? Double down on all global commitments and consider how human mobility can support them. We have the blueprints for transformation, the 2030 Agenda. I should have looked how to say that. Addis Ababa Action Agenda, the Sendai Framework on Disaster Risk Reduction, and the Paris Agreement, and others. So here are just some of the major blueprints, the plans that they have created in order to bring about their New World Order. It is fundamental to achieve progress on these, integrating human mobility considerations throughout and developing links between them. Human mobility and the 2030 Agenda. Managed well, human mobility can be a cornerstone of sustainable development, prosperity, and progress. The 2030 Agenda itself is built on the understanding migrant workers, remittances, human trafficking, the global health workforce, international students, migration governance. These and other topics are included in Agenda 2030. Further, it is not possible to leave no one behind without considering all migrants. Mobility is an integral component of the Sustainable Development Goals, woven across goals and targets. Mobility can also benefit communities of destination, as migrants buoy specific labor markets, lead to greater productivity and contribute to countries' fiscal budgets. For example, every additional 1% of immigration could boost GDP growth in destination countries by 2%. So our government thinks that every 1% boost could, it just says could, boost GDP by 2%. Another incentive for them. And eliminating mobility restrictions could increase world GDP by 11.5 to 12.5%. So no borders, okay? No borders means that our world GDP in the New World Order will be 11 to 12% higher. Finally, migrants themselves stand to benefit socially, economically, and otherwise from moving. Again, why can't we help them build up or, help them by leaving them alone and letting them have cheap energy, how we got there, right? From coal, natural gas, to electricity. Natural gas, I still don't see what the problem with natural gas is. I just can't. Mobility offers individuals potentially significant increases in well-being and income, with gains often much larger than those from development interventions. For example, after moving to a developed country, migrants from the poorest countries experienced a 15-fold increase in income, doubling of school enrollment rates, and 16-fold reduction in child mortality. In some cases, a triple win dynamic is at play, a virtuous cycle where migrants' communities of origin and destination simultaneously benefit from migration. USA is the only nation that is not filling the streets with millions of protesters against this tyranny. I know, and why is that? Is it because of complacency, education, that we just think that it can't happen here? That America will never experience what Ukraine experienced in 1921? By the way, in a different video, I mentioned Ukraine and the famine. I said the 50s or the 30s. I was wrong. I apologize. 1921. I believe till 23. It was short, but tens of millions. Well, no, it was 6 to 7 million people starved to death because of central planning, like what we're looking at right here. However, the benefits of human mobility are not guaranteed. Mobility can also pose challenges with negative effects on specific sectors of the economy, labor force, or society that bring fresh policy problems. These challenges can pertain to communities of origin, for example, where excess immigration from a specific locality or of those with a specific skill set may cause issues. Likewise, there may be challenges for communities of destination. For example, if substantial additional resources are needed to support the education and integration of some migrants. Again, I just showed one, Denver, and their healthcare facility being overrun, but it's very easy to find story after story about small places that don't have the facilities to host huge groups of individuals, migrants, illegal immigrants. Okay, they're illegal. The reason why our government uses the term migrants is because of exactly this, that these plans, they all call illegal immigrants migrants, because to the New World Order, that's what they are. Migrants could face negative effects themselves, as migration often entails high personal costs and significant risks. Since 2014, more than 57,000 deaths of immigrants on migratory routes have been recorded. Migrant workers around the world often undertake dangerous work, and overall, migration remains far from safe. These negative outcomes from human mobility are avoidable. They occur most often when policy choices and stakeholder preferences are misaligned, and when existing development solutions are not applied. Right, so basically, policy choices, it's illegal here and we don't want it. That's misaligned. None of the major challenges facing people and planet today can be tackled effectively without considering human mobility. The climate emergency is accelerating, allegedly, adding to existing multiple crises in various countries around the world, while violent conflict and poverty continue. Many societies are highly unequal and divided, and the lingering effects of the pandemic have weakened social cohesion. Once again, it was the policies by the lawmakers themselves, not the actual pandemic. Public budgets are limited and face imminent further constraints. Meanwhile, demographic trends, the world of work, and global digital capacities are changing fast. Human mobility is linked to all of these complexities and needs to be hardwired into their solutions. For example, disasters, climate change, and environmental degradation will continue to contribute to large-scale population movements. Meanwhile, human mobility impacts the environment, ecosystems, and the availability of natural resources, meaning that if managed well, it could also be a form of adaptation to environmental stressors. Once again, though, all the wars that are going on, completely avoidable. The only people that really want war are manufacturers of weapons and our own government, so that they can gain more power, right? Executive orders and what have you. While populations in many countries are contracting, those in many least developed countries are booming. Young people entering the workforce may not have the skills needed in global labor market, leading to increased competition for workers. As knowledge on certain dimensions of mobility has ripened, including why people migrate, what effects this may have, and what can shape these outcomes, policy is catching up with what we know. Aside from the 2030 Agenda, some global level frameworks have acknowledged the links between mobility and development. Notably, the Global Compact for Safe, Orderly, and Regular Migration. So there's another document that I could do a dive into. If you guys are interested, let me know in the comments. And, I am very interested in this stuff because, again, it's not fun. It's important to look at the symptoms of the disease. But we need to know what the disease is itself so that we can eradicate it. And again, that's not human beings. It's these plans. Aside from the 2030 Agenda, some global level frameworks have acknowledged the links between mobility. Okay. Multiple international legal frameworks underline universal rights and the need to include migrants, crucial to leaving no one behind. At today's critical juncture, when global stakeholders are urgently seeking solutions to meet the 2030 Agenda, these frameworks can help and must guide action. Implementing these can help mobilize a revitalized global partnership for sustainable development with collaboration across levels, sectors, and geographies. Further, it is crucial to ask how human mobility directly contributes to other international processes. For example, the Paris Agreement, which here in America is actually that stupid infrastructure bill. That is just the Green New Deal, but called the infrastructure bill. And it was bipartisan, y'all. Both sides it's the uniparty. Our Common Agenda is another plan. Various efforts to support SIDs and many others, and take action on these links. The Global Compact for Migration, SDGs, and Migration Governance for Development. Need to know your enemy. Exactly. Exactly. The Global Compact for Migration, and it's not your neighbor, is rooted in the 2030 Agenda. The fundamental to discussions on how to leverage mobility for development. It aims to leverage the potential of migration for the achievement of SDGs and enable migrants to enrich societies through their human, economic, and social capital. The Global Compact acknowledges that addressing human mobility effectively requires coherent and wide-ranging responses. The International Migration Review Forum, aiming to review progress made against the Compact, also reviews SDG mobility progress. In the 2022 IMRF Progress Declaration, states committed to doubling down on implementing the comprehensive agenda. The Compact guides actors on good migration governance, serving as a blueprint for action on mobility and sustainable development that directly contributes to the achievement of the 2030 Agenda. The United Nations system is committed to supporting the implementation, follow-up, and review of the Global Compact, and to this end established a network on migration to ensure system-wide support to countries. So they admit it's not a conspiracy. You just read what they say, and they will tell you United Nations is creating the network on migration. It is not, it's not illegal to them because there are no borders to them. The Global Compact provides, in the mobility development debate, with a very concrete how, a plan and toolbox to move forward with. Mobility dynamics are not just shaped by migration policies, but also by policies in other areas, from agriculture to urban design and public health, that may not seem directly related to migration. For example, trade policies can impact livelihoods in a local area, later increasing immigration flows. To effectively manage human mobility for development, all relevant policies need to be aligned in terms of policy coherence. This is why Michigan has been consistently talking about driver's license for people that are here illegally. Again, I could do a whole nother video on just specific Michigan policies for migrants that are directly related to this document. So they are implementing it, and it's not just the blue states, y'all. It's not just blue. Decisions to move are influenced by contextual and interconnected factors and shaped by sustainable development, impacts of climate change and environmental degradation, peace and security, and migration pathways. A systems approach is therefore needed to address drivers, linking humanitarian, development, and peace considerations. In practice, however, many policies do not take a systems approach or consider interlinkages, targeting individual mobility drivers instead, often with counterproductive results. There is a need to join up the dots across areas of policy making, similar to how gender and climate change are now recognized as cross-cutting issues. See, they are responsible for all this stuff going on with gender as well. But it's not because they care about women. They want women in the workforce. They don't want us to have children. Children will be owned by the state. Recognize as cross-cutting issues and empower more policymakers and other stakeholders to speak migration. This applies not only across policy domains, but also across levels of governance and between countries. They are giving money. They are giving money. I don't know how much. I need to look into that, and I will get back to you, or maybe I'll put it in the Substack article. I will. I'll find how much in Michigan or on average, and I'll put a monetary value on how much taxpayer dollars are going to migrants. This applies not only across policy domains, but across levels of governance and between countries. Acting on mobility development links require close collaboration between national and local levels. Empowering local leaders and working directly with communities, cities, and rural governments creates development solutions that work on the ground in real time, crucial to implementing what may otherwise seem abstract ideas. Think global, act local. Further, mobility and development policy requires strong cooperation across countries. Yes, and they are getting it. Biden is cooperating completely. People cross borders and affect different countries simultaneously. However, a real sense of mutuality and international cooperation on migration is often missing. The universal lens of the Sustainable Development Goals facilitates the development connections of mobility in countries of origin, transit, and destination. For example, allowing policymakers in high-income countries to not only consider them as instrument of bilateral cooperation, but also desirable in domestic policies. This will go a long way to increase the impact of policies across the board. To leverage the opportunities that human mobility brings, public mindsets need to change. This is why they're heavily involved in education. And I got blocked for the first time on Twitter because somebody that is very much deep diving into education, they're only looking at the symptoms. And I was trying to get them to look at the disease itself, and she refuses to believe that the United Nations is involved in college education. It's unreal, because if you actually look into it, Michigan, there's a list. I might be able to pull it up before the end of this video, but there is a list, and University of Michigan and Michigan State are on that list. But there are hundreds of colleges that are pushing United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, and a part of it is this whole gender binary, LGBT. It is absolutely involved with transhumanism, which is United Nations and World Economic Forum goals with Industry 4.0. So it doesn't seem like it would be connected, but it is all connected. Still too often, myths dominate. Often, human mobility is sensationalized and migrants dehumanized. Now, I'm not for dehumanization at all for any group of people. That's how atrocities occur, when you don't look at another human being as a human being. So we should not dehumanize anybody. It can be difficult to communicate nuance and change mindsets, particularly in bumpy political waters. However, if mobility is to be harnessed for development in neighborhoods, cities, and countries around the world, and if truly we mean to leave no one behind, migrants cannot remain scapegoats that provide short-term political fodder. While it dates from 2015, how migration is treated in the 2030 Agenda represents a progressive understanding of human mobility that, almost 10 years later, seems sadly unrecognized in national politics. This must change. What can be done? There is no need to reinvent the wheel. The 2030 Agenda and the Global Compact for Migration must be implemented. Doing this would bring us closer to achieving our shared goals for 2030, as well as leverage the links between mobility and development. Moreover, mobility in all of its forms must be integrated across development, humanitarian, and other efforts, including by following the action recommended in this document. Doing this would bring alive various mobility development links and, surely enough, help achieve the 2030 Agenda. Whichever way it is looked at, human mobility is part of the solution to rescue the SDGs. The upcoming SDG Summit marks a halfway point to 2030. The full spectrum of human mobility must be incorporated into discussions and outcomes, including key commitments to accelerate the contribution of human mobility to development in this most urgent decade of action. So decade of action from 2020 to 2030. And they started out with a bang, didn't they? With that whole pandemic plan, the plandemic. With the right tools, human mobility can help fulfill the aspirations of those on the move, those who stay behind, and the societies they join. While mobility is already recognized as a key part of Agenda 2030, this document outlines steps to act on this commitment and provides practical suggestions for policies, interventions to achieve transformation. Put simply, the 2030 Agenda cannot be achieved without weaving human mobility into our responses. So again, UN Agenda 2030 needs human mobility. Comprehensively considering how migrants can support the world's roadmap ahead to save people and planet is not only the right thing to do, but the smart thing to do. This is ambitious, transformational, and wholly possible. Acceleration actions for development. So now we're going to get into the 6 actions that they plan on taking. Acceleration actions are initiatives proposed by IOM to accelerate SDG implementation in this decade of action. They leverage how mobility can support sustainable development to push forward achievement on a wide variety of goals. The education and other needs of this group are not being met. If current trends continue, 300 million children or youth who attend school will not be able to read and write by 2030. How does that make sense? 300 million children or youth who attend school will not be able to read and write by 2030. These and other trends intersect with migration. Around 11% of international migrants are aged 15 to 24, and younger migrants are pivotal to how human mobility contributes to development. Approximately 1 in 10 migrant workers in 2019 was 15 to 24 years old. How young people navigate their transition into adulthood is critical for the progress of people and planet. Migrant youth may have different additional needs, for example, specific training or educational opportunities. I don't really know why I highlighted that, to be honest. I don't understand maybe how migrant youth have different additional needs, specific training. I don't know. Sorry. That's the thing with highlighting all this stuff. All right. Only by engaging and partnering with youth will the world be able to achieve peace, security, justice, climate resilience, and sustainable development. And migrant youth are a key part of the puzzle. Maybe I was thinking about the climate youth program here in Michigan and the United States, but a climate task force for the youth. That would be specific training that not just migrants are getting, though. I will say that here in America, we're getting that kind of training too in college and even in our regular public school system. There is no question. Climate change is real and humans are doing it. That's what our kids are being taught in public school. That is not real science, and it's not reality in general. So, again, I will say, get your kid out of public school. Awakened one. School was invented by the Jesuits for control, not to educate. Do as you're told. Yeah, you've gone down some rabbit holes. You're absolutely right. The education system, J.P. Morgan was involved with getting finances out. I always wondered why all through school, we do 12 years and you don't learn anything about finance. They didn't want us to think and know how money works, because then it's much easier to screw us over, right? To get one up on us. That's why we have to educate ourselves. Despite these useful data points, overall evidence based on migration and development is patchy. Migrants are often invisible in official SDG data. Closing data gaps is a priority for the United Nations system, and mobility data must be integrated in efforts to do this. Much better information on mobility and its links to development is needed to support action. For example, age and gender disaggregated data are critical to leave no migrant behind, and stronger data around climate events can help actors participate which populations may be at risk and mitigate fallout as far as possible. I mean, think about the hubris of all of these like plans that they have that are moving massive groups of people, and they think that they can do this without, or well, maybe they don't care about harm, but again, it takes a lot of hubris, a lot of arrogance to think that you can move human masses around the world in order to bring about your new world order with Agenda 2030. There are innovative examples to build on. The COVID-19 pandemic has been linked to data innovation, new data partnerships, and increased use of big data to understand mobility dynamics. So, just another benefit of the COVID-19 pandemic response was the massive data linking. And Operation Warp Speed accelerated more than just vaccines. It accelerated Agenda 2030. Extend social protection and universal health coverage to all migrants to reduce inequalities and vulnerabilities and enable their active participation in and contribution to societies. Social protection and universal health coverage are fundamental building blocks of resilient and inclusive societies and key to meeting the SDGs. However, many people on the move have little to no access to either. People that aren't on the move have little to no access to either as well, because here in America, it's so expensive with insurance and government working together, public-private partnership to make it unaffordable. It's completely unaffordable here in America. However, the pandemic highlighted the vital importance of social protection and health coverage. In its aftermath, there is need to rethink how to design and deliver assistance more inclusively. Extending social protection and health coverage to migrants could drive progress on these sustainable development goals. What do we know? Migrants tend to enjoy less social protection and health coverage. Expanding access would help reduce inequalities. Migrants are often at higher risk of poverty and poor health outcomes, in part due to the conditions surrounding their migration process. Across the European Union, 25% of foreign-born versus 16% of native-born live below the poverty line, and migrants face challenges in occupational health worldwide. 25% of the foreign-born versus 16%. It's not a huge gap, though. It's still a lot of people that are living below the poverty line that were born in the European Union. Adjusting social protection and health coverage to serve migrants can help reduce poverty, improve health and education outcomes, boost integration, and is linked to greater social inclusion and cohesion. This can be done by expanding eligibility and tackling barriers. In practice, many migrants depend on informal support mechanisms. While these should not substitute formal protection measures, programs could leverage some aspects of these, such as migrants' networks. This would maximize migrants' participation and contributions. As many countries scale back social spending in response to fiscal pressures, it is key to remember that migrants often help sustain these systems. Migrants tend to contribute more in taxes and social contributions than they receive. In Switzerland, having migration would cause the national social security system to go bankrupt by 2027. They need migrants. That's what this is saying. In Portugal, migrants' social security contributions are proportionally greater than those from non-migrants and reached 1.3 billion euros in 2021. Limiting welfare and health spending could have negative effects. Restricting asylum seekers and refugee health care access leads to high long-term costs, while extending primary care brings savings. Again, though, it's not just about money. We have to think about if you are a nurse in Denver right now. Already there's a shortage because of all of the policies that happened, people quitting, leaving, the ones that unfortunately did get it. A lot of them are injured now. And so they already have a shortage. They're already stressed out. But now you're adding, once again, a bunch of people that maybe don't speak English, making it more difficult to communicate. Don't have the same culture. So maybe no respect for women. You know, you can say all you want. I've been deployed, and the Muslims did not want to be around the women that were deployed. Now, third country nationals, you know, from the India, I could be posted with them, but I could not be posted with the Qatari military forces or the Kuwait military forces. So there is a difference in culture there, and nurses are women and they're not covering their face. And I'm not saying it's all of them, of course, but there is a culture difference. They would make the excuse that it's the woman's fault if an assault happened because they didn't cover their face and they could not help themselves. And again, it's not all of them over there, but it's enough of a culture difference that's not being taken into account. It's only about money and getting their stupid sustainable development goals accomplished. So there's a lot more nuance that isn't discussed. That's where I'm getting at. Healthcare access can increase employment, earnings, and productivity, and equal access is linked to growth. Moving forward, there is a need to consider how these topics interact with other issues, such as climate change, mobility drivers, and rural transformation. For example, social protection can be embedded into climate, shocks, and displacement responses to improve outcomes. We are commodities that they profit from at the issuance of a social security number. Yes. And, this is the first and only Jesuit Pope, evil to the core. I would like to actually discuss the Vatican more, and again, on a Rumble exclusive, because you're right, there is some crazy stuff. I mean, they had 2 popes for a while. They even made a Hollywood movie about it. Something is rotten in Denmark, or rather the Vatican. And there has been stuff for a while, but, you know, another quick tangent, Malachi Martin, he was a Jesuit, and then he said that he left the order, but he wrote a book called Windswept House, and in that book, he claims that Lucifer was enthroned by the Vatican, the Catholic Church, in 1962, June of 1962. Again, it's in Windswept House, and all the names are changed because he was trying to protect himself. He died a year after it was released, but he was an exorcist that was involved with Pope John Paul II. I don't know all the names clearly, but I thought it was really interesting that it seems like a lot of our problems started in the 60s, including the mRNA technology that we're dealing with now, because DNA was discovered in the 60s. I'm getting off track, but the 60s were crazy, and something happened spiritually in the 60s. Maybe an enthronement of Lucifer, or maybe the Jesuit is trying to distract us. But again, he wrote the book and he died a year later. He was a famous exorcist. So, getting back to the migration, what has been done? I'll read this one. In Sri Lanka, the Ministry of Health introduced a mandatory social protection plan for all residents visa applicants. Under the Health Protection Plan, applicants undergo a health assessment, and residents visa holders are entitled to a health checkup and several health benefits, including emergency care, primary outpatient care, and treatment for diseases identified in the assessment. Now, I haven't found much about Sri Lanka since they had food insecurity a couple of years ago, which basically people are starving. And so it's hard to find news on Sri Lanka, but it's because they went and did the ESG. They were at like 100 out of 100 on ESG score. And so it crushed them. It collapsed their economy. What can be done to get there? Provide universal access for all migrants to safe, quality, and affordable health services, medicines, and continuity of care to achieve universal health coverage. So there we go. That's the plan. Universal health coverage in the New World Order. I don't want their health care. Don't know about you. I'd rather go out into the woods, find my own herbs, brew some potions or something. I trust nature more than I trust man right now, for sure. Incorporate the health needs of people on the move in policies, strategies, and plans. Strengthen the capacity of health systems and enhance vertical coherence to ensure they are inclusive, equitable, resilient, and migration sensitive. Ensure migrants have access to financial risk protection, such as insurance coverage, to prevent excessive health expenditures. Quick note on health coverage. There's something going around that starting January 1st of 2024, health insurance does not cover war or riots or insurrections or like, what do they know? What do they know about 2024? Extend inclusive and non-discriminatory national social protection systems, including social protection floors for all migrants. Develop frameworks, policies, and practices to remove obstacles to social protection. And leverage innovative and formal social protection schemes as complements to former social protection where appropriate and feasible. And then the third is conclude bilateral and multilateral social security systems agreements and bilateral labor migration agreements along key migration corridors within regional groupings. So the second acceleration plan that they have, acceleration action, is to reduce remittance costs and leverage different types of diaspora contributions to boost sustainable development finance, trade systems, and global value chains. I am going to do this one more time.
Diaspora.
Sorry. It caught me. It was a word I was not looking for. The world urgently needs ambitious and creative plans to finance sustainable development. It would take less than 1% of global finance to fill the SDG funding gap. You know what? I don't have any of this highlighted. I'm going to leave this one. This is all about finances. I'm going to move on to the third. Not that that's not important, but it's a lot of numbers and stuff, and time is of the essence. So we're going into the third. Weave human mobility into development and urban planning to increase social cohesion and boost development for all. Black, Gray, and White Pope is real. 1969, Church of Satan, removal of prayer in school. Yeah, and I really think that the satanic panic of the 80s was real, but then they turned it into, people were just going crazy. But again, I think I'm going to do a video on Rumble about the Pope because it's important. There's a lot of power in the Vatican still. People don't believe that, but there is a lot of power in the Vatican. Today, 41% of citizens around the world feel that their sense of social cohesion is weak. When cohesion is threatened, taking a whole of society approach to development and including everyone's voices and priorities is critical. They say that, but they really don't want to hear when you say you don't want Goshen, their economic development. If you say, I don't want your economic development, they say, screw you, you're getting it anyway, pleb. Further, listening to migrants' voices would help improve cohesion, combating negative perception of migration. This is especially relevant in cities because they're going to corral us into the 15-minute cities, the mega regions. 5 billion people will live in urban areas by 2050. Displacement is increasingly urban, and city infrastructure will need to adapt accordingly. The Axe the Tax meeting that I went to, that individual knew. I highly recommend you check out that video that I posted last, because she knew that the reason why property tax is so awful is because our homes are being stolen right now in the name of this 2030 agenda in 15-minute cities. So yeah, axe the tax. Michigan, let's get rid of property tax. I'm going to keep talking about it until we can sign and get it on the ballot. We don't need it here. Stop stealing our home, government. Our homes. Including migrants and mobility and decision-making can boost cohesion and effectiveness of development interventions in line with the new urban agenda. So that's Industry 4.0, World Economic Forum, new urban agenda, which, again, I want to get into that. That is a very important document about how exactly they're going to corral us into these 15-minute cities. What are they going to look like? Our new city. Finally, it is key to remember that local solutions leads to national change. Working closely with municipal and rural governments and upscaling what works already well in those communities is crucial to sustainable interventions. Integrating human mobility and development planning should drive progress on a bunch of sustainable development goals. What do we know? Migrants' integration in politics and policy efforts is patchy. Migrants have no right to vote, in at least 31 countries out of 56. So they want everybody to have a right to vote. You can see this because you get your driver's license here in Michigan, you automatically are registered to vote. Now you let illegal immigrants that they are terming migrants, let them get a driver's license. Does it automatically, why wouldn't the system just automatically give them voter registration? Including migrant voices boosts cohesion and strengthens policies. Migrant participation and consultation on policies that affect them can strengthen integration and inclusion, boosting cohesion. In addition, the effectiveness of policies can improve with the participation of different segments of society. Migrants can introduce new information that policymakers were not aware of to support programs, and may be more likely to comply with policies over which they feel ownership. For example, in 1992, Guatemalan refugees in Mexico negotiated an agreement between both countries that could not have been secured otherwise. Not including migrants can be risky. For example, the relatively low uptake of jobs provided by the 2016 Jordan Compact is linked to a lack of refugee consultations, which would have revealed that many jobs offered were far from refugees' homes. You know, down in Texas right now, Elon Musk bought 3,000 acres and is creating homes for the people that work for his business. So this is another 15-minute city type of city that he is building himself. Billionaires are building cities, right? But they want you to have your work right next to your home because you're not going to have a car. Migrant voices can be meaningfully included through councils at national or city level, and transnational city networks can share related experiences. Greater co-design and, for example, 7 NGO partners helped manage Canada's labor mobility pathway, connecting refugees and employers. Oh, Canada. I feel bad for what happened to Canada first. I mean, we're on our way, but Zoltan the man, this chat is based. Yes, they know what's up for sure. And I am so appreciative of that. Considering human mobility creates more effective development plans, 29 out of 92 countries studied aligned their national migration strategy with national development strategies. Countries are increasingly integrating migration considerations into development planning. Really quick though, I will say, last year and the year before, I read a lot of Russian novels, and when they say based, they mean the opposite of when we say based. You know, base level, like lower level thinking. But for us, based in reality. So I just thought that was a weird difference between Russians back in the day, Tolstoy and such, and then our language. Examples of this can be seen in the Republic of Moldova. While mobility is most often woven into plans through focus on remittances, in fact, migration interactions with many other topics such as food, security, and income. Integrating mobility considerations into programs across development topics is vital to their success. This is especially true in urban areas since cities are at the front line of mobility dynamics and responses. 65% of SDG targets are linked to local government activity. What has been done? Malta created an interministerial committee and forum on integration opportunities to encourage migrant participation in decision-making. Portugal created a council for migration, partially composed of representatives from migrant communities and migrant-focused organizations to participate in policymaking. The joint IOM UNDP global program on making migration work for sustainable development has pioneered a methodology to mainstream migration for policy coherence since 2008. We all know what happened in 2008, and it really was the beginning of the Great Reset, but they kept that quiet. And homes were stolen by banks. They want us on that banking system so that they can control everything we do. UN Agenda 21, I will say it till I'm blue in the face, really is about inventory and control of every resource on this plane of existence. That is why they want to get the children registered here in Michigan all the way up to all the way down 4 years old, is because children are a resource and the state wants to own them, just like they want to own us. The program contributes to over 30 SDG targets and indicators, including by empowering governments to integrate human mobility into more than 21 national and local policies. The mayor's mechanism, see, this is where I found that map, and I'll show it again here in a minute. The mayor's mechanism, co-steered by IOM, United Cities, and local government, and the Mayor's Mechanism Council was established in 2018. It is a prime model of a partnership and collaboration space, forging links between states, cities, and local regional governments, as well as civil society, the private sector, the United Nations system, and other international and regional organizations. In 2022, the Mayor's Mechanism launched a call to local action for migrants and refugees in partnership with the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees, which invites local and regional governments to share knowledge, create partnerships, and upscale good practices and support for the compacts to continue to engage local authorities as essential partners in the quest for sustainable development, inclusive of mobility. What can be done to get there? Holistically address the needs of communities by integrating mobility considerations across multiple sectors of community life, including health, employment, housing, education, and more. This is the root of the problem. Empower local leaders, allow communities and governments to decide their own solutions. Build from existing good practices and their own solutions, as long as they align with UN Agenda 21, 2030. Now, everybody knows it as, but it's the agenda for the 21st century. And so the governments decide their own solutions, again, as long as it's what they want. Build from existing good practices in communities, scaling up and co-financing services and community organizations so that they can have a bigger impact. Create new spaces for sectors and levels of government to exchange and collaborate to help ensure horizontal and vertical policy coherence. Create similar spaces that include migrants and local residents across communities. Prioritize funding and support for communities co-creating new solutions to social cohesion, peace, and development challenges with migrants. Work with the media, private sector, educational institutions, and community centers to create bridges within and across communities. That is what they're doing, but it's not working very well in Chicago. I might be able to pull up a video, but first I'm going to show once again that map really quick. I say really quick, but I cannot find it. There we go. So once again, this is the Mayor's Migration Council map. And you can see it's everywhere, right? This is a new world order. It's not just America. But I do think that these places in Texas, so Travis County, Dallas, Houston, See, C40 MMC Task Force is in Houston, and that's right now. It doesn't say that's current. That's current. Dallas, current C40 MMC Task Force. Travis County, current. San Antonio, Leadership City, current with this Ron guy. Which, why is it red? Is that, and there's a city profile too. Call to local action. The current mayor of San Antonio has been a member of the MMC Leadership Board since December of 2023. He just signed. Is he Republican? Does anybody know about that guy? The city of San Antonio signed the Marrakech, I'm sorry, I butcher names, mayor's declaration and pledged to the 2023 call to local action for migrants and refugees. San Antonio also represented the MMC in diplomatic events, including the 2023 Global Refugee Forum, and participated in the MMC advocacy campaign on Afghan refugees. I have to keep zooming in here. Oakland, United States, and then it says San Jose, Costa Rica. It looks like California to me, but hey, what do I know? All right, let's go back. Elon works for us, DJT. What is DJT? I apologize. And so you think that Elon Musk is on the good side? Is that what you are saying? I want to clarify. All right. Create new space for sectors and levels of government to exchange and collaborate. Yeah, okay. I'm done with this section. So, number 4, this is the 4th action to accelerate migration. Develop safe and regular migration pathways. Invest in skills development and facilitate mutual recognition of qualifications to meet the needs of changing labor markets and divergent demographic trends. To me, this is about digital ID and, of course, developing the safe and regular migration pathways. That's what's happening. That's what Muckraker is exposing on muckraker.com. That they have done that. They show you the maps. They have money, United Nations cards, and they're doing what the United Nations wants. Now, are they fleeing? Of course, I'm sure that there are some that are fleeing, but the Chinese, I'm not sure, what are they fleeing from? Don't get me wrong, the communist government, that I would flee from that too. But if you've lived your whole life pledging to the CCP, I don't know if you're not freedom-minded. America does have that difference, being more of an individual rather than part of the collective, which is why we're being targeted. Migrants bring skills that are in demand in destination communities, supporting sectors where labor is in short supply. Nevertheless, so companies don't have enough cheap labor. That's what they're saying. Although with automation and AI, a lot of jobs are going away. So someone is paying for their flights. Absolutely. Absolutely. Elon works for us, Donald J. Trump. Okay. Sorry. I should have, duh. My bad. Yeah, I'm going to talk about space this Wednesday, Rumble exclusive, and I am going to talk about Elon Musk. Unfortunately, I do not trust him. He is not on our side. Starlink and Starshield are terrible. They are part of the web that is going to take over the world. Drones, drone warfare. I just read another article about 3 of our troops over in Jordan just got droned by kamikaze drones. Drones will not be able to work without Starlink in rural areas. So, unfortunately, Starlink is necessary for technology to work in wartime. I will get into that more on Wednesday, but I don't trust Elon Musk at all. He is 100% funded by us, the government subsidies. None of his companies are profitable. And so I go on, and I will, on Wednesday on Elon Musk. Another SpaceX going up tomorrow. Yeah, SpaceX. You know, his son is named X too. Anyway, effective skills and mobility policies sustain productive labor markets. Skills training, one of his sons, he's got 11 kids, 3 baby mamas. Anyway, skills training that matches job requirements improves productivity and growth. This means that as labor markets become increasingly global, there is a dual need to invest in skills that are in demand domestically and globally, and craft mobility programs that support their circulation. These actions support destination countries. High labor shortages can cost businesses more than $1 trillion a year. We are a destination country, obviously, so they're saying we have high labor shortage and it's costing $1 trillion a year. Conversely, they also contribute to origin communities as the immigration of educated workers is linked to brain gain. So, are they planning on bringing Chinese nationals for Goshen here in Michigan? Because obviously in Illinois they are. Increased rates of those who are highly skilled. Policies are needed to fill in the gaps. The proportion of youth not in education, employment, or training is at an all-time high of 23.5%. And there are already significant skill gaps related to the green transition, which could create 24 million jobs by 2030. It could, but it won't. Skills mobility partnerships that invest in vocational training can offer a quadruple win in this context. You know what? Let me take it back. It probably will create 24 million new jobs, but it's destroying old jobs. So mechanics are going to be replaced with software engineers for software as a service-based vehicles. So when you say it's creating 24 million jobs, you're really just transferring. You're changing the nature of the jobs that were already there. Improving migration skills, helping employers and destination countries meet skill shortages and contributing to development in origin countries. Migrant skills are often not formally recognized. Changing this would benefit all. The average overqualification rate of native-born workers in the European Union is 21%. It is 33% for foreign-born. Better skills, development, and recognition can equip countries for diverse demographic changes. By 2050, older persons will outnumber children under 5, youth, and adolescents. And demand for healthcare workers will increase to create a potential shortfall of 15 million workers by 2030. Now, I fully believe you should do everything possible to take care of your own elderly parents or grandparents, family members, because no one will love them and take care of them like you. And the shortage stresses people out. Right now, there's a shortage for caretakers. By next year, a shortage of 200,000 in just Michigan alone. So if you have someone that's really stressed out, taking care of some, elderly, it can be frustrating. Think about if you have dementia patients and so on and so forth. Unfortunately, you just cannot trust somebody else to take care of your family member. So do everything you can to take care of them yourself. Starlink equals Space Force. I know. It is a part, and the Space Force is really about digital space and surveillance and what have you. It's not about going anywhere. It's about taking your money. I think, what do they take? $67 million a day NASA gets? And then NASA gives money to Tesla, or SpaceX, I'm sorry, to SpaceX. So we are paying for SpaceX. Public-private partnership, guys. Public-private partnership, fascism. Better skills, development, and recognition can equip countries for diverse demographic changes. I read that already. I'm moving on. What can be done? Support and convene relevant public and private stakeholders. including government actors, trade unions, migrant associations, and non-governmental organizations, employers, and others, to create and implement market-driven skills development policies that improve employability while meeting aspirations of people on the move, and distribute relevant cost among stakeholders. Scale up and replicate innovative tools such as skills mobility partnership model as a forward-looking solution that is centered around cooperative skills development and building of meaningful partnership between migrants, states, employers, training and education institutions, and civil society. The fifth action that they want to take to accelerate migration: reduce the digital access gap for people on the move to improve integration and unlock innovation and green entrepreneurship. Cannot trust the medical industrial complex at all. At all. You were absolutely right, Awakened One. And unfortunately, all of our institutions have been captured. We need to create parallel institutions, parallel society that will be underground at first, but eventually enough people, it'll become mainstream. That's the only solution. Unfortunately, I don't think we can salvage what we have. And I'm not for burning the world down. I obviously not at all. But these institutions are beyond hope. They've been captured completely. And so again, we can create new systems like Whitney Webb says. Let's stop being reliant on Google. And there are intelligent human beings that want freedom, that know how to build software. They need to build a software and we need to use it. Google is convenient. I get it. And it's the best. But it's been in work for years and it's a monopoly now. We need to have a little bit of short-term pain for long-term gain. And we need to get off of Google and get onto another piece of technology. And we need more, obviously, than just one, because then that could just be a monopoly and do what they want to do. We need to have decentralized. We need to have free market where several different businesses pop up and we can choose based on what our preferences are. What business, what company we want to use. Same thing with energy, man. I hate that I only have consumers' energy to choose from. I hate consumers' energy. I wish that I had other energy companies so I could say, I don't like you, consumers. I want somebody else. Instead, I'm reliant. In a world where the new face of inequality is digital, many migrant populations face limited digital access. At the same time, migrants are more likely to be entrepreneurs. Closing the digital divide would not only decrease inequalities, but allow more migrant-led innovation to flourish. Governments and businesses have not focused enough on how migrants can support a low-carbon future. As carbon-based life forms, when you see low-carbon future, we have to think less human being future, less life, because it's not just us. Cow farts, okay? Those are bad. They're so evil. Less carbon means less cow farts, means less cows. Although right now they're just putting chemicals inside the cow to get them to fart less. Can you imagine? I wonder how the cow feels being all backed up, not being able to fart because of the freaking poison that they're putting into them. Sorry, another tangent. Governments and businesses, low carbon future, boosting digitalization and migrants' entrepreneurship could present an opportunity to help address climate change. Reducing the digital access gap could drive progress on all these sustainable development goals. What do we know? Migration is linked to innovation and entrepreneurship. Migrants are disproportionately represented among inventors, and in most countries, and self-employment is higher for migrants than for natives. Non-nationals make up a disproportionate share of patent submissions, 38% in the United Kingdom, 40% in the United Kingdom of the Netherlands. Okay. Migrants' diverse skill sets, knowledge, and experiences can boost innovation and productivity in firms, and remittances and return migration are often linked to entrepreneurship. In some cases, migrants' innovations support the green transition. For example, in Israel, the water treatment sector was developed partially thanks to technology and knowledge to transfer from the diaspora. Digital inequities, digital inequalities hold migrants' entrepreneurship back. The lack of digital access is linked to isolation and decreased training and education participation. We can't force propaganda onto you if you don't have the internet, okay? Everybody needs to, no one left behind when it comes to force-fed propaganda. Reducing the digital access gap is vital to enable migrant inclusion and integration, as it facilitates access to information on basic needs such as housing, employment, education, and health, access to social networks, government e-services, language training, and many forms of digital learning, as well as job-seeking opportunities. Digital cooperation discussions should place greater focus on people on the move. Increasing digitalization can drive green entrepreneurship. The green transition will require changes across industries and occupations. And for this to happen, innovation is needed. Digital policies can encourage migrants' entrepreneurship to accelerate the transition and support climate action. So, again, they're going to use whoever they can, and they're using migrants. By supporting migrants in this manner across destination, origin, and return countries, migrants could help make the green transition more inclusive geographically. Finally, the rise of teleworking brings not only productivity gains and reduced CO2 emissions, but new opportunities for workers across borders, right? You will not leave your house. If you want to leave your house, you have to go to the metaverse, okay? Put on an Oculus Rift VR system, and you can go to Tennessee and see the mountains inside the virtual world. That will keep CO2 down because you're not flying, you're not driving, you're not using a horse that has farts. You just stay in your home, pleb. What has been done? Use technology to simplify and streamline international mobility and entry procedures while upholding the principle of non-discrimination, respecting the right to privacy, and protecting personal data. I have something on that really quick. Protecting personal data. Here we are. U.S. preparing privacy technologies to secure new digital ID for immigrants. This just came out in December of 2023. And this, Mason Clutter, DHS Chief Privacy Officer, was speaking about privacy-enhancing technology, PET, when it came up during an online forum. They're working on digital IDs for refugees and asylum seekers that is based on privacy-enhancing technology. Do you believe that? I certainly don't. When they say privacy-enhancing, they mean the opposite. They are going to steal all of your data. You're going to get on this privacy-enhancing technology, and you will be their pet. Here's another one. UNHCR strategy on digital ID and inclusion. So this is not too long, but digitally yours, why the digital inclusion of refugees, stateless, and other forcibly displaced persons not only makes sense, but is the right thing to do. Right. They just want to be able to track you and me. What can be done? Ensure that migrants, displaced persons are included in digital cooperation discussions and specifically accounted for in the global efforts to measure digital inclusion. Facilitate more inclusive and quality education for hard-to-reach migrants by leveraging digital tools for early child development, formal schooling, non-formal education programs, vocational training, technical education, language training, and lifelong learning. By the way, United Nations is completely against homeschooling, and I think it was 2018 they actually came out with an article on why. So they definitely tell you their intentions if you just listen to them. All the many politics can fly wherever and whenever. Exactly. They will be able to fly, but they want the resources for themselves. That's why they want to inventory and control them all. I don't really think that they believe that the resources are finite. It's just that they want to themselves. They want to have the most. And how can you think that? More people equals more people to grow things, which, another really quick side tangent. I'm not going to the grocery store today, so I have a little bit more time. Check this out. I'm going to get into this more when I talk about my next Michigan news roundup. But the study examines carbon footprint of urban farmed food. They're going after raised garden beds. Redacted did a really good episode about this. This comes out of the University of Michigan. Again, United Nations, working with the United Nations, University of Michigan. But they're going to come after, share the article. That would be smart. They're going to come after our raised garden beds because of carbon footprint. This is bad. This is not as good as huge industry farming. They don't want you to be able to feed yourself, y'all. Integrate human mobility into national adaptation and climate change response plans and invest in preparedness and loss and damages provisions to force impactful climate and peace action. Quick look. Climate change and conflict are existential threats to Sustainable Development Goal progress. 1/4 of humanity lives in a conflict-affected area. Stop war. Why do we not stop it? What do we know? Policy coherence is crucial to managing climate change, conflict, and human mobility. Comprehensive solutions are needed, including in emergency and post-crisis displacement contexts that embed strong links among humanitarian, peace and security, and development assistance. Such links lay the foundations for durable solutions, lasting peace, and sustainable development. The same goes for climate change, as its indirect effects on human mobility are highly complex, and addressing these requires coherent policy across sectors. Again, it's impossible to just have so much central control without massive death. It happened in Russia. This communitarianism, it doesn't work. Let people make their own decisions, and that is what works. But that requires you to trust that your fellow human being can think for themselves. And these people don't. They're the intelligentsia. They know best. They're so smart. Not. For example, climate change-related declines in agricultural productivity can trigger rural-urban migration, leading to an increased pressure on cities and labor markets. This drives me crazy. Climate change-related declines in agricultural productivity? No. It has everything to do with the policies that these jerks are putting in place. Why do you think Germany and the Netherlands and all of the farmers over there are literally spraying cow shit all over the government buildings? Is because they are being squeezed by policies and taxes and rules and regulations because of bullcrap climate change. Carbon is a pollution ideology. So it has nothing to do with the climate change itself. They would be able to farm just fine if it wasn't for the government intervention. And unfortunately, as much as I love that they're doing what they're doing, they're not farming. So the New World Order is happy because they're not farming. You go ahead and you can shoot cow manure all over the buildings. As long as you're not farming, they don't care, unfortunately. Adapting to these changes requires aligning laws, strategies, and plans across policy domains, including climate change, disaster risk reduction, and others. Further, health systems suffer shocks as they face the direct and indirect effects of climate change. No, of migration. Climate change won't really affect people if they have cheap energy. You can heat your house in the winter if you have more blizzards, and so on and so forth. Moving forward, the resilience of health systems in the context of climate change and mobility must be considered. However, there is limited integration of human mobility in relevant frameworks. Populations on the move are, to varying degrees, considered in high-level peace, climate change, and other processes. For example, the new Agenda for Peace recognizes that conflict is a key driver of displacement and highlights the vulnerabilities of displaced people. The new Agenda for Peace However, while mobility is increasingly included in climate change policies and frameworks, this is done unevenly. While 33 of 40 national adaptation plans submitted to the UNFCCC mention one or more forms of human mobility, mobility-related terms are not used coherently, and most plans ignore how mobility help enhance adaptation. Integrating mobility considerations is integral to peace and climate change action. Most of today's major challenges to peace and prosperity, from inequality to terrorism to climate change, are interlinked, meaning that their solutions must be cross-sectoral. In turn, human mobility must be systemically included across plans. DRR, which is disaster risk reduction, saves money and lives. Each DRR dollar spent reduces damages by $6 and will become more important as climate events increase. You know, if climate events do increase, it's because of geoengineering, solar geoengineering, spraying chemicals in the air, drying out our forests with all these chemicals, and trying to block the sun, which we need. To ensure, somebody on Twitter was saying that that's a hoax. But I'm like, go to Harvard. They talk about geoengineering. You know, go to one atmosphere. One atmosphere is the United Nations push to seed the clouds with chemicals in order to manipulate the weather. And then, of course, HARP is another weather manipulation tool. They've had these tools probably since the 60s. Maybe before, though. So if there are any climate event increases, it's because, once again, hubris, human beings trying to manipulate and control weather, human beings, whole societies, the world. To ensure minimal loss of lives due to disasters, early warning systems must ensure universal coverage, including migrants. Doing this may require special considerations as many migrants live in hazard-prone areas and could be the first and worst affected. Moving forward, climate change-related global frameworks planning need to recognize and integrate different forms of human mobility. For example, the establishment of the Santiago Network for Loss and Damage Institutional Arrangements decision is a step forward in strengthening solutions for human mobility in the context of climate change. So another plan, here we are. When they were affected by the same climate change-related disaster, countries who had integrated human mobility in their NDCs had lower related disaster costs. Note that these country pairs have different contexts and cannot be directly compared, and yet you are. You are directly comparing them in all four of these examples. But if you read the fine print, you shouldn't be comparing them because obviously different countries have way more than just different disaster programs. We are almost done, guys. What can be done? Integrate human mobility, national and international framework policies and plans on climate change adaptation, disaster risk reduction, and development, and build capacities of stakeholders to do this. Strengthen systems to prevent and respond to future crises, including through risk assessments that factor in future climate change impacts to inform mobility programming for preparedness, conflict prevention and resolution, disaster risk reduction, and climate change adaptation. Develop urban development plans to prepare for mobility. That is why I continue to say, look at whatever city is closest to you at their master plan. Look in your township even. Look in your county. Master plans. That is economic development. That is going to be where your sustainable development agenda is secretly hiding. It's not really that secret. If you read it, you see multimodal, smart. There's a bunch of keywords that you can look for in your master plan. And of course, because I'm live, I'm blanking. Usually I have them ready to go in my mind, but alas, it happens. Master plan, no matter what city, you will find that the They are developing urban development plans that prepare for mobility, for an influx. And this is where your affordable housing comes in, your not so affordable housing. But just like the individual, Wagner, she said that you get into this affordable housing, you won't be able to have, let's say, a weapon. So you still have your Second Amendment, but if you live in the 15-minute city, you won't be able to have a weapon, a gun. You won't be able to protect yourself because if you want to live in the affordable housing, you'll have facial recognition and you won't have the rights that you once had. This is why private property is so important. And really quick, terrible story that just came out. An individual got thrown into jail for 1 day because of facial recognition and AI working together that identified this individual, and it was false. He did not commit the crime, but he got thrown in jail for 1 night and he was assaulted by 3 men. And it wasn't even him that did it. So the facial recognition and the AI got him assaulted in prison. Now, obviously, where the hell were the police that you're supposed to, make sure that people inside your jail are not being assaulted? We all seen Shawshank Redemption, but he wasn't convicted of anything. He was just thrown in jail and then he was released because it wasn't him. And yet he still got assaulted. It's crazy. Why are our police forces utilizing this facial recognition software when it's wrong? Like, a lot. Looking ahead, today's sobering picture of reversing SDG progress is a clarion call to redouble efforts to leave no one behind and overcome the triple planetary crisis. With the world now at such an existential crossroads, there is little justification not to act on it. They created the crossroads. This is the problem, reaction, solution. And now they're saying there's little justification not to act on it. It has happened. So now we might as well take advantage of this opportunity. How many times have we heard Klaus Schwab and all of these jerks say that type of sentiment? Mainstreaming human mobility considerations into development must gather speed to respond to global threats and take advantage of the opportunities migrants bring. With the right levers, doing so can lead to systemic change. For example, as climate mobility rises, expanded legal pathways will be crucial as part of a broader response. Double down on existing human mobility, sustainable development, other global commitments. We have the blueprints needed for transformation, all the same ones I named earlier. It is fundamental to achieve progress on these while including mobile populations and integrating human mobility considerations across these, thereby creating long-lasting solutions to global challenges. Concretely, countries can strengthen the links among all of these frameworks, for example, by developing integrated action plans and deepening ties for review forums. Never let a crisis go to waste, exactly. That's another thing. So say you live in this affordable housing, you have your surveillance state going on, but let's say as a woman, I get assaulted by a migrant or a minority as a white woman. It just happened in Law and Order, SVU or something like that. A white woman was assaulted and she did not want to press charges because the person that assaulted her was a person of color I don't know exactly, which doesn't really matter, just not white. And so she wasn't going to press charges because she's got privilege, even though she was assaulted. So now you live in affordable housing, but because you're not the right race, doesn't matter what happens to you, you have privilege. So you just shut up. Like, this is the type of society that they're building. It's not a society I want to live in, obviously. That's why I'm trying to warn about it. Commit to and implement mobility-centric frameworks, in particular, the Global Compact for Migration. The Global Compact for Migration offers a 360-degree vision, 10 guiding principles, and 23 objectives, commitments, and actions. This provides a robust and internationally agreed framework of good migration governance. As a comprehensive blueprint for action, it is central to leverage migration for response and recovery efforts and accelerate migration-related SDG implementation. For example, it is critical to take a whole of government and whole of society approach and ensure policies and programs are rights-based, evidence-based, people-centered, and gender-responsive to boost policy coherence and improve migration governance at all levels. Weave human mobility into the new rescue plan for people and planet. A new rescue plan for people and planet, another plan that we need to look into. To fast-track SDG implementation, countries will come together around a rescue plan with 3 fronts of action: equipping governance and institutions for sustainable inclusive transformation, prioritizing policies and investments that have multiplier effects across the goals, and securing a surge in SDG financing, and enabling global environment for developing countries. In this way, mobility-driven financing mechanisms can complement the United Nations SDG stimulus plan. If you haven't seen my video on drone swarms and biodiversity finance, you need to check it out. You need to look into BioFin, United Nations biodiversity finance. This is how they are going to use the New York Stock Exchange to steal our public lands from us. So United Nations is definitely using money, just like it's using everything else, in order to get its plan mobilized and implemented. End misinformation and political manipulation of human mobility. Different types of migration have been simplified, stigmatized, and politicized around the world. We regularly hear that migrants lead to lower wages, fewer jobs, heavy burdens on public services, lower social cohesion, and increased crime. That's happening in the cities that have a huge influx of illegal immigrants. In reality, these perceptions are often overblown or factually incorrect. Tell that to the people that are living in those areas, that are experiencing those things. Tell them that it's overblown and factually incorrect. This situation must change, not only to spare migrants unjust scapegoating, but to clear the road ahead for transformative change. Again, I'm not blaming the migrant. We should not be interfering with their home country and stopping them from progressing because of climate change. That's what's happening. So if you're in Sudan, you can't do what America did because you have these globalist pricks that are telling you that climate change bad, cow farts bad, you can't do these things. So how about get them out of there and let them progress naturally, and then their country can be great too. I'm for everybody having a great country. And I'm not for world police. I don't like Team America World Police. Categorically, the action this document proposes cannot be effective without a fundamental shift in migration-related narratives. However, human mobility has links across humanitarian development, peace, and many other dimensions. This means that it requires the insights of human experts, human rights experts, diaspora members, labor economists, lawyers, business owners, climate scientists, gender specialists, sociologists, and behavioral scientists, and many, many others. Behavioral scientists. Behavior modification, that is MK Ultra. They do that. I mean, they admit to it. Even in Ferris State University, they have a class called behavior modification. So no country can address the challenges and opportunities of human mobility alone. As we already know is the case for sustainable development, the needs of countries are more likely to be met if they are considered together. Collective gains reward collaboration on migrant governance. Put very simply, the world we want will not be achieved without considering safe, orderly, and regular human mobility. There is now the world we want to create. The world we want. Who are you? No one voted for you. This is not the same world that I want. This is now an unprecedented chance to acknowledge this and channel mobility to help achieve shared objectives. It is too late to waste this opportunity, and transformative change is within reach. I will take pictures of this last bit and post it because it's not long, but my time is running out. So that is the majority of the Leveraging Human Mobility to Rescue the 2030 Agenda that just came out again in November of 2023. So just a couple months ago. It's the most recent IOM report. And I will continue to say it's important to know exactly what the plan is, why this is happening, because they want us to go to war with each other, and we must not. I'm double checking to make sure. I'll share this last tab. I just found it right before I jumped on the stream, so I apologize if it's biased in one way or another. Army of God trucker convoy heads for Texas border, January 26th, 2024. This is why I wanted to talk about this today. Usually I reserve Mondays for a lot of different news coming out of Michigan because Michigan has been targeted by the New World Order. They want our beautiful resources and land. And although I don't blame them, I don't like it. And so there's still so much to talk about and a lot going on. Please continue to go to EDRA, the Economic Development Responsibility Alliance for Michigan. They continue to have good information on Goshen and Marshall and all of the different groups of people that are fighting economic development that's being shoved down our throat. So please continue to look at that. I might not always keep up on it with you guys because unfortunately I can only do videos right now 3 times a week on average. So much information that's so important, but I'm consistently trying to give you the disease, not just the symptoms. Some of the symptoms show you, but where is the root of the problem? That is my goal for this channel. Army of God trucker convoy heads for Texas border. Again, I completely understand we are going to have to save ourselves. No one's going to save us. We have to do it carefully. A trucker convoy of patriots is heading to the U.S. border with Mexico next week as the standoff between Texas and the federal government intensifies. I find it curious that it's next week. February 1st is when Google is actually implementing their censorship on news, basically. Any big event that happens, only mainstream news sources are going to be able to report on it without censorship on Google, and that means YouTube, which is going to be a bigger push towards Rumble. But Rumble censors as well. I've seen censorship on Rumble, so there really is no foolproof solution, but we have to keep trying, right? Eventually, we'll have to do it the analog style. You have to write it down, and you have to talk to people and be like a town crier. But we're not there yet. We still have the internet. And we still have electricity for now. The organizers of the Take Our Border Back convoy have called themselves God's Army and say they're on a mission to stand up against the globalists who they claim are conspiring to keep U.S. borders open and destroy the country. This is a biblical, monumental moment that's been put together by God, one convoy organizer said on a recent planning call. We are besieged on all sides by dark forces of evil, said another. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called the sons of God. It is time for the remnant to rise. The remnant from the book of Revelation are the ones who remain faithful to Jesus Christ in times of crisis. The Take Our Border Back convoy aims to call on our government to take action and secure our southern border. The convoy is set to start from Virginia and travel across various locations on the southern U.S. border from January 29th through February 3rd, with a series of rallies planned along the way. A Give, Send, Go fundraising campaign in support of the convoy has already received over $36,000 in donations. The convoy's organizers and sponsors include far-right podcasters, QAnon influencers, and conspiracy theorists. Kim Yeater, one of the convoy organizers who has promoted it in a media appearance, has a history of promoting election denial efforts. Real quick, you know what's funny? You type in terrain theory, and what comes up is germ theory denialism. And again, no one's denying that an election happened. No one's denying that germ theory exists. What people are denying is for the elections is that they just wanted someone to verify. Why is it a crime to ask for verification? Unless, of course, you're covering something up, which elections have been hacked for a long time, but people this last time started to realize it. Yeater is a radio host and the CEO of Take Our Elections Back, which aims to restore the integrity of America's voting system. She has also promoted multiple events held by election denier Mike Lindell. Again, though, the Dominion machines, it was shown in the court of law, which the courts have been captured too, but still, it was shown in the court of law that you can hack them because they're connected to the internet. That right there tells you everything you need to know. Among the organizers is GOP Rep. Keith Self, who last appeared here when he declared that people who don't think prayers stop mass shootings also don't believe in the Almighty God. Self, a freshman, maintains that the separation of church and state is a legal mythology. Self appeared on Fox. So this is the big news. This is why I thought it was important for us to talk about migration. I, again, have nothing against the people themselves, although some people in this world, whether it's on the other side of the border coming in or in this country already, have nefarious means and modes and plans. So people do choose evil. It's a choice. Every single individual on this plane of existence has the choice between good and evil. And some people choose evil because it's faster, it's easier, you get rewards, it's, short-term gains, but long-term pain on the evil side. And then vice versa. If you choose the good, and every day it's a choice. You have to choose it every single day you wake up to try to be good and to do good. And it makes it a lot easier if you believe and know that humanity, we have souls and that we have a creator and that, your fellow human being is your brother or sister, a spiritual brother or sister. And so we need to be pro-life, pro-human being, and that will help us to choose good every single day. So I know I got a little preachy at the end. I'm sorry. I love you guys. I appreciate you listening to me. I'm going to check really quick and see if I have any. Okay. Thank you for informing us. Thank you for being willing to be informed. It always drives me crazy when people just want to stick their head in the sand. There's just so many people like that in the world that they don't want to see the facts. They don't want to be informed. I can't imagine that. How can you make decisions if you're not informed? Like good decisions. How can you make good decisions without being informed? Awaken One, no preaching. Thank you. Thank you guys so much. I love you all. Tomorrow, unfortunately, I will not be able to do a normal video because the MEDC is having a meeting. And just like last week, I think it's really important that we look at our leadership. And here in Michigan, the Michigan Economic Development Corporation runs this shit. I'm just going to be real. They run it along with Eagle. Those are the two fists that Governor Whitmer punches us, rural or urban, just the people, we the people. She punches us with those two forces. So tomorrow, MEDC, we're going to watch them, see what they're doing, see what they say, look at their complacent faces. And last week, there was an individual that just called them out. His name was Barry. I'm going to bring it up on my next roundup of news for Michigan, because he went on there and called the Michigan Strategic Fund Board, which is directly connected to the MEDC, called them fascists, as they are. Public-private partnerships, fascism. You taking our money, taxpayer dollars, and picking winners and losers with corporate welfare, that is all fascist crap. And that individual calling them out was glorious. So it's within the first 15 minutes of my Michigan Strategic Fund video, if you want to see it before I can clip it and give it to you. But really good stuff. Brandy Sweet, one of the residents of Green Cheddar Township that has stood up and started fighting Goshen. She is also on there, has a very excellent public comment. So highly recommend you check those two out. But anyway, I hope to see you guys tomorrow in the live stream. I'll chat with you guys. Otherwise, Wednesday, I will be on Rumble exclusive talking about space and Space Force and Elon Musk and drones again. I'm going to continue to talk about drones because that is the type of warfare being utilized. And since I'm prior military, it's fascinating to me. I will continue to be anti-war, but we need to know where the battlefronts are. There's so many battlefronts, it's unreal. But together, we can win. I have full faith. But first step is awareness. So thank you guys, Zoltan the Man. Thank you, Space. Yes, I hope to see you on Wednesday over there in Rumble. All right, guys. That's it. Peace out. I love y'all.